mouse. This is deliberately put up so that you can't see it. In 2004, there were 193 different agents that were able to prevent diabetes in the prototypic animal model of diabetes, the NOD mice. There are now over 400. And we're actually trying to refine that model to try and say, how can we make it resemble the human even more? So what considerations do we need to think about as we move forward? And what have we learned about it? Is that we have to think about understanding that when we take this combination, we've got to think about mechanism. We've got to think about synergy. We've got to think about safety. Again, primum non nocere. You'll hear this again as a pediatric endocrinologist. We won't embark on a therapy that's not translatable, that can't be used for so many people. So we've got to be safe. And it has to be able to have the potential in order to work. So that's sort of how we at the University of Florida and others have sort of framed our thinking. Now, what combinations that can improve efficacy? So we wanted to embark on an agent that may be immunosuppressive and at the same time may cause recovery of the immune system. And so what we actually did was we used a combination of, this is just again many years of work, but to use a combination of anti-thymocyte globulin, which is an immunosuppressive agent, and GCSF, which is an immunoregulatory agent, and possibly an agent that certainly aids the mobilization of the immune system, and who knows what it does in terms of regeneration of cells. We don't know that right now. But what you can clearly see is that this is the number of people on the y-axis who don't have diabetes, number of people, it's the number of mice that don't have diabetes, and on the x-axis is days post-onset. And what you can clearly see is that the combination of, I don't know why this thing doesn't focus well, but the combination of anti-thymocyte globulin on the red and GCSF really led to a very marked reduction in the incidence of diabetes in these animals. And not only was there a reduction in the incidence, but it even reversed the disease. So when we gave blatantly overt mice with type 1 diabetes, this combination, there was a reversal of the disease. And when we looked at the histology afterwards, there was clearly a reduction of that autoimmune, that inflammatory response. So the question is, well, how have combinations allowed us to move forward? And again, this is, lots of data, but I will say to you is that, again, learning from cancer is that if you put agents together and you can reduce the dose, you can enhance not only the efficacy, but also the safety as well. So again, do we know that it's safe? The answer to this is when we looked at, for example, the white cell counts in the peripheral blood of this combination, which was much lower doses, what we saw was that these, or certainly ATG alone, led to a much lower white cell count on its own, but when we used the combination, there was a recovery of the immune system, hopefully a resetting of that immune system. Now, many studies, or several studies, have been done in humans over the past 20 years. And here is, again, a list of published studies, some of which I've noted with an asterisk. And the reason that I've noted them with an asterisk is because those have been some of the more successful studies. And when I talk about a successful study, again, don't have time to go into the data, but what it shows is that for the first 3 to 6 months, we have an improvement of beta cell function, an improvement of the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. But after the first 3 to 6 months, there is a steady decline. And these are, if you will, the successful studies. The only study to date that has really shown a prolonged increase in time has been the so-called Brazilian study, but in that case they used autologous non-myeloablative transplantation. So again, the questions about safety are certainly paramount, and we're not sure that that's certainly applicable to humans. So again, we have to go on to safe studies. So the question is, what have we really learned? And I think that Dr. Pizzilli is going to go into this, is that we can do very good studies, and the stage is set for more studies, that we really need to continue to work together. There needs to be funding available for these, that if we do see a response, it's going to be in 3 to 6 months. And again, we need to think about a long-term benefit, because even these studies have really not been sustainable. So when we sort of ask a very fundamental question, which is really the hard question for all of us in this audience, is that why have we not cured diabetes? Why have we not been able to prevent the disease? And I think we have to really take a very strong look and a step back and ask the question, is it truly an autoimmune disease, and is there an opportunity to really study this, to perhaps rethink outside the box? And I will simply say is that we continually think about this every day, and that's why I think this meeting is very important, because it does give more opportunities. But why have immune interventions not worked? Is it just because we have destroyed the cells? Is it because it's really secondary? How come we really haven't changed the course of the disease? You know, what have we really learned from animal models? And why is it that we don't have markers in the blood? Why can we not find these markers of immunoregulation or killing of the beta cells? And even now, just to let you know, as we've looked at pancreatic autopsy samples, there's no correlation between seemingly that damage, that encephalitis, and the presence of disease. So maybe there's something else that's going in within the beta cell that's telling us that we need to do something a little different. And the reason that that's also important is that it then tells us what are our future challenges. Again, insulin is not a biological cure. We have to design new studies that are safe. We've got to do new studies that are smaller and shorter. We talked about how hard diabetes is, and maybe we've been looking at the Holy Grail, which is cure. Maybe we shouldn't look at the Holy Grail, which is cure, but perhaps make it easier for patients who really have type 1 diabetes. So although we think about this overall, I think we maybe need to lower that expectation somewhat and say, well, if we can make it easy, that's really good. We should only be doing these studies, if they're safe and so many more people can benefit from them. We, again, are continuing to understand the mechanisms. And again, this cocktail approach, which is where we started, really needs to be pushed, that we're using this combination of immunoregulatory and regenerative markers. And again, I think that our future will be understanding the mechanism, learning where in the disease to intervene, and again, later on in the disease, which is what you're going to be hearing more about today, we do need to use combinations which will lead to both immunoregulation, the induction of tolerance, and also the regeneration of islet cells. Thank you.